Hi guys, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be showing you how to cut and sew this long sleeve with a placket and a cuff. It is detailed, beginner friendly and very easy to understand. So if you're interested, please watch till the end. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to draft the basic long sleeve. I have a detailed tutorial on how to do this and I'll be linking it to this video. So first you're going to go ahead to fold your fabric into two. So when folding, you'll be folding using your armhole measurement divided by 2 plus your sewing allowance. So once you're done folding your fabric into two, the next thing to do is to insert your sleeve length. So my sleeve length is 22 inch, but because I'll be attaching the cuff to the sleeve, I'm going to go ahead to minus 3 from that 22 inch. So after minusing 3, I'll be left with 19 inch. So I'm going to be adding 1 inch to the 19 inch for my sewing allowance because I'll be needing 0.5 inch to join the sleeve to the cuff and 0.5 inch to join the sleeve to the main bodice. Once I'm done doing that, I'm going to go ahead to mark 20 inch as the sleeve length, after which I'll go ahead to draw a straight horizontal line like you see me doing in the video. So this line I'm drawing at this point is going to be serving as the starting point for the sleeve I am going to be drafting. So after drawing the horizontal line, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to insert my sleeve cap's height. So the cap's height for an average adult is 4 to 5 inch. I'm going to go ahead to mark 5 inch as the cap's height for the sleeve I'll be making. After marking the 5 inch, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to insert my armhole measurement divided by 2 at this point. So my armhole measurement is 17 divided by 2 is 8.5. I'm going to go ahead to mark it at this point like this, after which I'll go ahead to draw a straight horizontal line like you see me doing in the video. So once I'm done doing this, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to draw the sleeve curve like so. So if you want to see how to draft a perfect long sleeve, I'll be linking that tutorial to this video for you to go and check it out. So once I'm done drawing the curve, what I went ahead to do is to measure what I have there to make sure that it's the same as the armhole measurement on the basic bodies I already have. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to measure 10 inch from my shoulder measurement. Then I'll go ahead to insert my round arm measurement at that point. So my round arm measurement is 13 divided by 2 is 6.5. I'm going to go ahead to mark 6.5 inch and I'll be adding 0.5 inch for ease and 1 inch for my sewing allowance. So it's a long sleeve shirt. If it's too tight, you will not be able to fold your hands. So make sure you add your ease allowance when drafting yours. So next I'm going to go ahead to move over to the wrist measurement. So when taking your wrist measurement, you make sure you take it like this, starting from this point so that the sleeve will be able to pass through. So after taking my wrist measurement, what I got was 9 inch. I'm going to go ahead to divide the 9 inch by 2 and mark. After marking it, I'll be adding 0.5 inch for that on that part. Then I'll go ahead to mark my sewing allowance of 1 inch also. So once I'm done doing this, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to connect the sides of the sleeve with my ruler like you see me doing in the video. So after connecting the side of the sleeve, this is what it is going to look like. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to cut it out. So after cutting it out, this is what the sleeve is going to look like. The next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to notch where my sewing allowance start from like this. Then I'll go ahead to use this pattern to cut another sleeve. So I'll not be doing this on this tutorial because I'm making this video for illustration alone. So after cutting your first sleeve, the next thing to do is to cut the second sleeve using this first one you've already gone ahead to cut. So once you're done cutting the other sleeve, the next you're going to go ahead to do now is to open up the sleeve like this. Then you place the other sleeve on it, making sure that the good face of the sleeves are facing each other. Because if you don't do it that way, if the bad face is facing the good face, you will end up cutting the same type of sleeve. So you make sure that the good face of the sleeve are facing each other or the bad face of the sleeve are facing each other. So once you're done doing that, the next you're going to go ahead to do now is to come in by 2.5 inch from this sewing allowance part. So remember, we notched the sewing allowance. So I'm going to go ahead to place my tape roll at this part where I notched. Then I'll go ahead to measure 2.5 inch inward. Once I'm done doing that, I'm going to go ahead to measure 5 inch upward like this. Then I'll go ahead to draw a straight vertical line with my ruler like this. So after drawing the straight line, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to cut through the line like you see me doing in the video. So when cutting, you're not going to be cutting to the edge of the 5-inch. You'll be stopping at 4.5 inch. Then you go ahead to notch it like so. You're going to notch to the side and also to the other side to have a V shape like this. So after notching, you should have something like this after you're done notching it. So once you're done doing this, the next thing we're going to go ahead to do now is to start attaching the placket and the cuffs to the sleeve. So for the placket and the cuffs, I've gone ahead to cut out this piece of fabric you see here. So this is for the cuffs, while these other ones I'm going to be using them for the placket. So I have this smaller piece here that I'll be using to pipe the sleeve, and I have this bigger one also. So the width of the bigger one is 2.5 inch. So I went ahead to cut out 2.5 inch. After doing that, I went ahead to fold in 0.5 inch on both sides like this, after which I folded it into two again. So I'll be using this for one part of the placket, and this smaller piece will be used to pipe it, and the width of the smaller one is 2 inch. After cutting out 2 inch, I went ahead to fold in 0.5 inch on both sides, then I folded it into two again. So that was how I got this one, and I'll be attaching it to the smaller part, while this bigger one will be attached to the other side of the sleeve. I've also gone ahead to cut out the cuffs for the sleeve, and the length of the cuffs is 10 inch. So my wrist measurement is 9 inch, and I added 1 inch for sewing allowance. While the height is 3 inch, the height of the cuff is 3 inch, but I went ahead to add a sewing allowance of 1 inch. So what I have here is 4 inch, and I have two pieces of this. I also went ahead to attach a gum stay to it, and the gum stay is the actual height of the cuff, which is 3 inch, and the actual length of my wrist, which is 9 inch. Once I was done attaching the gum stay to the piece of fabric, I went ahead to mark a sewing allowance of 0.5 inch all the way around. So the next thing you're going to go ahead to do now is to start stitching the placket to the sleeve first. So for the placket, we'll be starting with this smaller piece of fabric. So what you'll be doing first is to open it up, then you place your sleeve in between the piece of fabric like so. So you're going to go ahead to pipe this part with this piece of fabric. So once you have it in place like this, the next thing you're going to go ahead to do is to place it on your sewing machine and stitch it like you see me doing in the video. So after stitching it, this is what it is going to look like. The next thing we are going to go ahead to do now is to attach the bigger placket to the other part of the sleeve, and you'll be doing this on the wrong side. So you're going to go ahead to place the placket on it like so, making sure that the good face of the placket is facing the wrong side of your sleeve. And I'm going to go ahead to stitch from the beginning down to where this notch stops. So I'm going to go ahead to place it like this, and I'll start from where the notch stopped from. Then I'll go ahead to stitch down using 0.5 inch like you see me doing in the video. So after stitching the bigger placket to your sleeve, this is what it is going to look like. The next thing you're going to go ahead to do now is to turn it over to the good face of your fabric like this. You're going to go ahead to flip it over like so. Once you're done flipping it, this is what you should have. The next thing you're going to go ahead to do now is to top stitch on the sewing allowance part. So I'm going to go ahead to quickly run a top stitch on the placket like so to keep the sewing allowance in place. So once I'm done top stitching, this is what you're going to be having. So the next you're going to go ahead to do now is to fold the placket to stay on the sewing allowance part like this. So once you fold it to stay on the sewing allowance, it's going to cover this other smaller one like so. So this is what you should have once you're done doing this. The next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to trim off this excess a little, and I'm going to be trimming it to be 1 inch above where my actual line stop. So this is what you should have once you're done doing that. The next we're going to go ahead to do now is to stitch this other part of the placket to the shirt. and in doing that you're going to go ahead to place it like this. So note that is this part that is open you are stitching, and when stitching you're going to be stitching it on the allowance you have on that part. So you're going to go ahead to place it on your sewing machine like you see me doing. Then you're going to go ahead to start stitching from the lower part like so. So make sure your stitch is straight and make sure to use a matching thread. So I'm going to go ahead to stitch from this point upward like you see me doing in the video. So once I get to 1 inch above where my actual slit opening stops, I'm going to go ahead to fold in this part like this. Then I'll go ahead to run a stitch down to this point. So once I get to this point, I'll go ahead to turn it over like this and I'll run a stitch like this. So once I get to this point again, I'm going to go ahead to turn it over like this and I'm going to stitch down to 1 inch below where my slit opening stop like so. Once I get to this point, I'll go ahead to turn it over like this again, then I'll run a stitch down to the side. After which I'll go ahead to just create a design on the inner part of the placket like you see me doing in the video. This is not compulsory. This is me just trying to create a design inside the placket. So once I'm done doing that, I'm going to go ahead to remove it from my sewing machine, and this is what we have. So after sewing the placket to the sleeve, this is what it is going to look like. The next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to trim off the excess I have on this part. Then we're going to move over to stitching of the cuffs of the sleeve. So for the cuff of the sleeve, the first thing we're going to go ahead to do now is to close up this side like this. So first I'll go ahead to fold in 0.5 inch on the part of the sleeve that has a gum stay. So I'll place it like this. I'll fold in 0.5 inch, after which I'll go ahead to stitch on my sewing allowance all the way around like you see me doing in the video. So once I'm done stitching it, the next I'm going to go ahead to do is to notch this part of the cuffs, after which I'll go ahead to turn it over to the good face. Then I'll go over to my ironing table to give it a good press. So I went ahead to iron it and I went ahead to fold in this part while ironing it, and this is what the cuff is going to look like. The next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to bring back my sleeve, and I'm going to go ahead to close up the sides of the sleeve. So I want to stitch from this point down to the armhole area of the sleeve. So once I was done doing that, this is what the sleeve is going to look like. So after closing up the side of the sleeve, this is what we are going to be having. The next we are going to go ahead to do now is to start stitching the cuff to the sleeve, and in doing that you're going to go ahead to place your cuff to the sleeve like so, starting from the part that does not have a gum stay. So you place the good face of the cuff to the wrong part of the sleeve like this. So I'm going to go ahead to keep it in place with my pins like you see me doing in the video. So I'm going to go ahead to place the edge together first, then I'll go ahead to secure the other parts with my pins. As you can see, I'm having some excess on the sleeve. I'm going to be pleating that when I'm stitching the sleeve to the cuffs. So the next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to start stitching the cuff to the sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead to stitch, and I'll be creating my pleats while I stitch like you see me doing in the video. So after stitching the cuff to the sleeve, this is what it is going to look like. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to close up this open part. So first I'll go ahead to push the sewing allowance inside like this. Then I'll go ahead to top stitch the cuffs on the sleeve like you see me doing in the video. So after stitching the cuffs to the sleeve, this is what it is going to look like. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to go over to my ironing table and give it a good press. So after I was done ironing the sleeve, this is what we are going to be having. So you're going to go ahead to place your button on the smaller part of the sleeve, then you create your buttonhole on the bigger part of the placket. So this is what we are going to be having once you're done ironing your sleeve. So if this video was helpful to you and you're yet to subscribe, please click on the subscribe button, and also don't forget to like, share and recommend this channel to other designers. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next tutorial.